December 20th, CIP meeting to order. I'll ask Addison to call the roll.
Obrecht.
Here.
Carberry Montgomery.
Here.
Hutchison.
Here.
Nicholas.
Here.
Hollibrands. Here. Hilbert.
Here.
Bodie.
Here.
And Chuck Curran is absent tonight.
Alrighty. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect all participants to act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. We have minutes from the November 28th meeting. Is there a motion to approve? First by Hollibrands.
Second.
Second by Bodie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All righty. Next, we have the public hearing portion. The notice was published on December 9th of the Des Moines Register Community News. Were there any objections to the notice as published?
There were none.
All righty. Then is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Hollibrands?
Second.
Second by Bodie. And voice vote works for this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All righty, so in public hearing, we'll ask for comments from the public. And I know we have one talking about an item that's not actually in the plan, and I don't know if others will want to comment as well about items that are in the plan. We have 120 projects. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record. And if it is one of the existing projects, what the project is so that we can get to that page. But let you go first and talk about trails.
Yeah, name is Matthew Butler, 8216 Sharon Drive. Thank you. You guys hear me now?
Yes.
I've got a couple of exhibits. I don't know if there's a way to just pass those around or I'll let you see what those are. Whatever's easiest.
Addison, do you have document camera?
Yep, working on it here.
That white spot in front of you is where the camera would go,
Gotcha.
would look down on.
So what I was going to talk about today, there's obviously been a shift in kind of mindsets about a lot of outdoor activities that have happened since the pandemic, right? It's kind of put a new emphasis on just getting outside and getting to walking, which I'm sure a lot of residents have done. Urbandale has a great set of trail systems. I know that's something that you guys pride yourselves on, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. What I wanted to talk about today was something on the east side of the city and the trail system that is on the east side. So everything to the east of 8035 there. The trail system that is on 8035, and upon reading kind of the Complete Streets master plan of a lot of the projects that were upcoming, there's a separation of the trail systems that exist today of kind of the walking systems of the nice backyard, visually aesthetic trail systems, and the ones that are more kind of prone to the bikers and the people that are running or that just kind of follow along a street, right? It kind of seems like there's two separate uses, although both plans are all lumped into one category, right? They're thought of together. I would actually encourage you to kind of separate those in your minds, because a lot of people aren't wanting to get out and walk along an unshaded long stretch of an arterial street versus the trails that exist today, which are these nice visually aesthetic backdoor shaded curvy windy sort of systems that were put into place through developments before kind of some piecemeal development separated them. There are two primary trail systems on the east side which connect throughout the whole Des Moines metro. One being the trail system that is from, I've got a graphic here. This is just through Urbandale itself, just to kind of help you visualize for you. So the trail system here, we're right around, I think, here today. This basically wraps all the way downtown if you're looking south. That will go all the way kind of connect through to the downtown area and connect to a lot of great existing trail systems through the city of Des Moines a medium priority, but this is the kind of priority that if it was moved to a short-term priority as opposed to midterm, you could touch all those people's lives now, as opposed to down the road with more expensive projects that wouldn't get you the kind of cost benefit that this would. That's what I had.
Thank you. All right. Are there others wanting to make comments on any of the other projects listed in the plan as currently stated? Looking at our two guests that aren't city staff, just to make sure. All righty. Well, thank you for your comments. With that, I guess is there a motion to close the public hearing? By John, all the brands?
Second.
Second by Bodie. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So now we're going to go in the committee discussion section of this. As we've got a couple follow-up items. The two sheets, one is the Parks Water Trail Project, which is page 33. The change there is that there is now $125,000 grant money available. So the project didn't change, the funding sources did. So that's always a positive on that one. And the other page is page 9 of the police station replacement of moving from an update of the police station to a $36 million build on the police station in 2027. And I guess with that, we also got a sheet from our finance director, Nikki Lamb. And if she would want to explain her percentages and what this looks like, since the police station numbers would be part of this sheet.
Correct. So at our last meeting, you had asked for just kind of a snapshot of what we're talking about with the legal debt margin and what our bonding capacity would be. So I just put this together based on where we're at today. So this is the top section is fiscal 23, the budget that we're in today. The current outstanding bonds is $69 million. We're issuing another $12.4 million based on the CIP today. Than the amount that we're retiring. So I just kind of flowed that through. The thing that is hard to concept is that our fiscal performance goals require us to keep 30% back for emergencies. So that is where that $93 million comes off, is under the city's current fiscal performance goals, we would hold that in check in case we had a huge natural disaster or something. So that is money we consider that we can't touch. And then
Nikki, I have a question about that.
Sure.
So we would still need to do a bond referendum to access that 93.
you would have to change your fiscal performance goals. So this is city policy, is
Okay.
to hold that back, just like our general fund, we hold 25% fund balance so that we can meet our needs. That's
But if we had a huge natural disaster,
under an emergency, unless you're building a building with it, you would need a referendum to build a building.
Okay.
But if we needed to issue bonds to go repair roads, we wouldn't need a referendum for that, so no. A building, yes, any vertical infrastructure would need a bond referendum.
Even replacement of existings, like if a Parkersburg happened, they still have to do a bond referendum to go and replace.
That is my understanding. I'm not familiar if there's an emergency. It's a life safety issue is we have an outside item, but I don't believe that that's true. I think if you have to replace it, it's usually would be insurance proceeds would do that, so you wouldn't probably have to have a referendum because you would have some other source to ensure that.
Yes, if we had, for example, a Parkersburg incident where you had significant damage due to a natural disaster, that's why we have insurance. Now, we have a deductible, but the insurance would cover, and we update that insurance each year to what we estimate to be the replacement value. So when we just build a building, for example, the Public Works Recreation Maintenance Building, we have a number that's valid because this is what it costs us to build. But as we have buildings that have aged, this building, the library, the public safety building, anything, that we try to give a replacement cost value in our insurance, and that's what we have that there for.
I've never had to bathe through a natural disaster like that we would have to access that, but this is the super conservative nature of,
Yeah.
we hold something in reserves. If we had to do something has been in place since I've been here. So then the other thing, the 4 referendum items that we had reflected in this document, I don't really know what order or what fiscal years those would end up being in, so I just wanted to show you what the take on the legal debt margin is for each of those as a percentage. And then, of course, taking into account the document we're here to talk about is the in and the out. So the new issuance, less how much I pay off in a year for the next 3 fiscal years is all I went out to just kind of show what if we would do all of these items, this is where we would end up for margin. So about $17 million left on our $200 million margin. So this is what we had asked for, is just a recap of kind of where we would be if all of these things happened, because that was raised last time with the police station building, that number being significantly different than what was in the original document, what kind of impact that would be with our legal debt capacity. So it's just a snapshot as of today, always using today's valuation number. So obviously it updates every year based on the new, it's 5% of assessed value, not taxable value, assessed value is the state, that's the constitutional debt limit. So that's legally all we can do. Any questions about that? It's just for informational use.
The 8 million that you have for the fire station, where,
I'm assuming there was going to be some land purchase in there too. It's 7 million in the document to build the building, but that was assuming we were doing, that we would have land, and we're not positive that we would have that. So I just put land, et cetera. I'm not sure what we would do for that, but that was the building cost only, is my understanding on that page, so.
and I'm assuming that the 7 million is based on, thank you. The 7 million is based on the experience at 43 and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
If you'll recall, the overall authorization for 43 was not to exceed $6 million. The bid came in at, I believe, 4.8 million, and then there was the, we also include the fueling station as well, and then there was a number of add-ons to the building itself. We also own the land.
Days.
Those were the days, yes. Kept us up at night. But there, we also own the land, and that was about 3.5 acres that we didn't have to purchase.
Okay. All righty, so then, I know we've got 2 amendments to talk about then, or to add into the plan of, obviously, page 33, I think is easy. Page 9, police station piece. Were there other amendments anybody else wanted to bring forward or talk about?
Well, are you gonna go through it, item by item? I got several different motions I wanna offer up. I assume I can get parks and motions, is that right?
Yeah, and so that was, it just didn't know how deep, if we were gonna do this kind of a section by section, or if we had amendments to go through, and we can go section by section, so.
I didn't know, I just wanted to make sure about the format. And I've got to say right up front here, as far as this police station, I'm a strong supporter of the public safety. I'm not ready, at this time, I have to put no. Too much money too soon. I want to hear some other things.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, we'll start, I guess, through the sections then. So art will be the first section. Guessing nothing there. Buildings is where the police station comes in at.
Can we, are we gonna make a move each section? Or if John makes a motion, we work through it, we just approve that particular page separately? Is that what you're planning
Yeah,
on?
so planning, I guess.
And then
if
at
there's
the
any
end,
pages in this section to deal with, then we would deal with the pages in this section. And then at
Okay.
the end, approve the whole document to move on to city council.
as amended tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, if everyone could turn on their mics?
Since we do have people
Green lights
online
on?
and are recording both, so,
That would help, thank you.
okay. All righty, so this section, replacing page 9, discussion on that with the police station.
I'm gonna make a motion to table the police station replacement for further analysis.
So the motion is to table basically keep the existing page 9 and table
Yes.
the replacement page.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Bridget. All right, all those in
Well, is there any discussion?
discussion?
We just
Yes.
got the new page, so it'd be nice to get a quick overview of what's happening.
Yes,
Money back to the bank effectively, so it's to the positive, you're not spending more. Sorry, Bridget. I'm sure there will be other, and then that way, if the bids would come in high, we still have that available to use to finish the project if we had to, so it
I just
wasn't a
wanted
big
to
enough
buy
number.
more stuff.
Yeah, me too.
We can buy more stuff.
Gotta get that project moving south of here.
all right, so then we have new page 33. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second. Second. Any further discussion on the new page 33? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All righty. Any other in parks? If not, we got bridges next. Nothing there, 2 pages. Sidewalks. Including trails.
Should we or could we make some level of note? Matthew, he made a really wonderful point about trying to study the connectivity of those trails systems. And I know that the Complete Streets Committee hasn't met in a while. I know we can't direct or anything like that, but might we make a suggestion that the council consider asking the Complete Streets Committee to do a review of the Complete Streets Master Plan? It's been out there for a few years now. And see about potentially moving up the priority of that connecting piece. It's just a thought. I'd so move if there was any interest in such a thing. But,
Right, so specifically 86 or the document as a whole?
well, I think it would probably be smart. Jan, would you be shooting me if I suggest this? It seems to me like it would be smart to review it at this point a little bit. Maybe not the whole thing, but maybe some of the connecting pieces or something like that. It's been around for a while. I just thought he made a good point, and I think it would be behoove us to pay a little attention to it.
I mean, my personal opinion, the plan's been approved by council and we are implementing the plan as approved. So if it's been approved by council, a committee giving recommendations, we certainly,
So maybe we'd be making a mess of things, is what you're saying, if we
yeah,
were
I mean, we're implementing as it's been directed as the council approved the master plan. And certainly 86 and Meredith is certainly part of a major discussion with this, and it's not an easy fix by any means, or we would have done it. So yes, but it is an approved master plan, and that is part of the systematic implementation of that.
Yeah. Well, it'd just be nice to look for an opportunity to, that's a good point. It'd be
Yeah,
nice to look for an
it certainly
opportunity to
is. I mean,
elevate
that was one of the top 3 of the project ones that presents some complexity. Anything's possible. Dave McKay used to say you can change a stream from flowing in one direction or not, but it's very complex, but point well taken.
Yeah, okay. All right, I won't move anything.
Okay, well, I will then.
All right.
So it's just directing staff to see if there is a viable route to connect the sides of 86th Street.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And it might get included in next year's plan. There may not be a viable route, but I think we've got a good point that got brought up, and I think it's worth another look to see if there is a viable way to connect it now that there's construction on Plum on the west side.
Yeah, I'd second that motion.
Further discussion?
Since we started, we're halfway into the Complete Streets program, we're almost slopping into that. Dan Herkey brought up a point. Once the city council has decided something, it's pretty tough to change it. Since I guess we're into, if we are into streets, there's been a lot of moaning and groaning about the Complete Streets program as to, applies to Aurora. A lot of people was for they were going to be here and talk about that deal, but I'm looking out here at the peanut gallery. I don't see anybody. No, they don't show. They don't. I was going to offer up a motion. It's a waste of time, but I'll do it anyway to remove the Aurora Avenue Complete Streets program from the program. But there's no public support. It's not here. So
We got a motion, we're currently on though of connecting the sides of 86th
that's
Street.
right. But what brought that up was Jan was saying, well, these once the city council locked in on something,
Okay.
and that gets us back to the same thing about the reason I jumped so hard on this police station. It was once these things get started, they get embedded, and then there's a lot of momentum. The time, if you don't like a deal, you better get started early on it, because otherwise it'll get locked in.
Yep.
I've been here for going to these city council meetings and this kind of meetings for 20 years, and I'm thoroughly familiar with this process. If you want to beat something, you better get on it quick and early, or you're behind the curve. You get nowhere with it.
What page is the Aurora streets?
All righty.
It is on page 58. Bridget.
We'll get to that next section. But the motion that we have is to connect the two sides of 86th Street. Have staff review that as an option, as a note. It might be an out-year item, but a potential future project, so.
Is that like a note to the part of the communication from the committee
Yes,
to,
to the council.
so it's not really an amendment to this?
It's not a page specific.
Okay.
It would just be to,
In the minutes.
yep. We did it a couple times last year, so figure we set a precedent.
Yeah, and I seconded it.
All righty, all those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. All those opposed, nay. All righty, others, so we've got Aurora coming up in the streets section.
What about stormwater?
But
Got its
before
own
we
little
get there,
tab.
just wanted to make sure we didn't have anything else in sidewalks. And anything in stormwater.
Yeah.
All righty, figured we'd add stormwater options, okay.
Anyway, I'm going to offer up a motion urging considerable increase in spending on storm sewers to 9 to 10 million a year for approximately 10 years in order to possibly get the worst of our problems resolved in the next 10 years.
So not a specific page,
Well,
but more of a,
we're doing all right. This coming year, we're spending, what was it, 7 mil or something like that on storm sewers. But after that, it falls off to nothing.
so we got 7 million and we got 3 million in 25, 3 million in 27,
That's nothing.
well, 5 million in 27, actually.
That's nothing compared to what we need. So that gets us back to what we were talking about earlier. Something's going to have to give here.
Okay, is there a second to John's motion?
Second.
Second by Pat. It's further discussion.
I guess I would like to know where we're putting this before I were to vote on it. I don't disagree that we could spend $10 million a year on stormwater. I think, or you said 10 years, 10 million, I don't know. But we could spend a lot of money every single year. So I want to know where exactly and how much.
Correct me on this, but a couple years, somewhere around 100,000 plus with a consultant to identify stormwater problems.
That's correct.
The city manager and I had a little bet, and I told the city manager that this deal was going to run, the actual project would run somewhere around 80 plus. City manager said, oh, no, it wouldn't run that much. Well, we were both wrong. The,
Well, then I don't owe you anything, do I, John?
back a little over 100 mil.
Yeah.
Correct the deficiencies, major deficiencies in our storm sewer. Our problem is east of 86th Street and south of Aurora. Back, if you, a very good presentation by our city engineer in that area, we have virtually no storm sewers. Incredible. Again, I've been to these city council meetings for years, and when it rains, we have all kinds of people down in the city council meetings complaining about flooded basements. Now, we haven't had that for a couple of years, but trust me, it will rain again, considerably. And we'll have all those people down there complaining again. Now, if I want to do something about this, really, now even this 100 million or plus that this consultant was talking about, that's only to resolve 100-year floodings. That doesn't take care of all of it. And the worst of it's going to be, you'll still have flooded basements. But we need to spend that money. And I've been beating that drum pretty hard here. And I guess I'll continue to. But we need to do something about this, people. And I think that takes priority over a lot of these other things we're talking about. But that's my opinion, so that's the resolution here. But if we want to get this thing done, we're going to have to spend a bunch of money. In answer to Bridget's question, well, the consultant did lay out a definite program. We're identified I think it was 5 or 6 different drainage basins. Very, very complete deal. And we need to do it. It ain't gonna come out of thin air. This is a costly, miserable, costly deal, tearing up all these streets, all the disruptions. And all you gotta do is look at all the problems we had there just south of the high school. What that cost. Couple blocks there, 2 years to do it. Had a good contractor on it. All that really got through that deal pretty well. And then we did 72nd Street there, and we repaved that. A good contractor on that. And so we got through that. But well, there's going to be all kinds of problems with it. It's a choice of I guess we can either fix the problem or ignore it. And the next time it starts raining, we got all these people down at City Hall again pitching.
I guess when I was elected, Adam was also elected, Matt, stormwater, we came in as a big priority for us, and we completed that study, and I guess I assumed that we would be implementing the results of that study as we are able, noting that that was a priority of the council that we have. So I guess my question's for AJ or for John, where are we falling short in implementing, or are we falling short in implementing the results of the study that was laid out a couple of years ago?
I know John will fill in some of the blanks here, but when we mentioned the study, that was in the sense of ultimately you could do all these things that would cost you $120 million. We recognized that you weren't going to do some of the ones that were on the farther end of the spectrum because the return on your investment just wasn't going to be there. There are 6 watersheds that affect this area. And so the question came up previously about prioritizing those. And so the plan that you get through your CIP is prioritizing those projects, and as we can link them up to other physical improvements that we're doing to minimize the disruption. What we look at, as you can look at through the documents that show the funding source, we look at a combination of whether it's in a TIF district. General obligation bond is primarily the source for that, and then stormwater. And one of the things we talked about during the CIP, and then we've talked about during budget preparation, is that are we at that point to increase our stormwater fee and utilize that for improvements that are strictly for stormwater? As it is now, the ERUs that are charged, every household is charged a single ERU. In commercial structures, there's a scale that we apply to those to collect ERUs. So everybody who has a structure, ownership structure, owns a structure in the community is paying for stormwater. We do the stormwater improvement projects that are available for residential, but we accumulate that money to tackle these projects. So these projects are determined, again, as I mentioned, by the severity and the need to get them done as far as the importance and the age and other things. And we also try to combine them with other projects to minimize the disruption. So that list from the consultant, the $120 million, if you have, money was no object and you could do it all, you could do $120 million worth. We know that that's not realistic. And again, we're tackling the worst to get to ourselves to a point where we minimize neighborhood issues. John, did I?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, correct, as part of that study is we worked with the consultant and came up with a priority list, and that is the priorities that we've worked into the CIP. We've also made a little bit of a change, again, because with the Merle Hay, just due to the opportunity of doing the storm sewer improvement, that was not really on the top of the list, but just kind of the way that came together, we slid that ahead. So again, we've kind of got a project every few years, and unfortunately, it just takes some time to design and construct, and that's why we've kind of bounced around a little bit too, because I don't think any neighborhood wants you redoing the streets and the storm sewer in the same general area for 10 years. So we've kind of tried to move it around to different parts of the city. So again, I think we are implementing what was in the plan. It's just going to take some time to do all those projects, or at least get to the first critical ones.
How long till we work through the top tier?
A long time.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of just even an initial area could be a 2-3 year project. You know, we did on 73rd Place, that actually stretched into 4 years to get that entire project done. Part of that was just due to the school in the last phase, but you know, a lot factors into the weather. We got to be careful we don't have a street gone when winter comes, so sometimes you have to quit a little earlier in the season so you don't get caught. You know, there's a lot of different things where we have a wet year. It's just tough on the contractor to get everything done. So just with normal construction, you like everything to get done in a year. A lot of times it'll take that second year, and then when we get into large neighborhoods and everybody, you know, has to walk to get to their house because the street's gone, you have to go to a lot smaller sections, which makes everything just take a lot longer.
So would you say it's more than just money that we factor into? It's also the major inconvenience that these projects cause?
And it's a matter, you know, as you get more and more projects in the metro, what we're seeing, you know, again, you're just more likely you're going to pay more because there's fewer and fewer contractors if we overload the system as well. But yeah, there's a lot of things go into the cost is part of it, but the disruption and trying to coordinate, again, the inconvenience for the residents at the same time.
Without going too far into the weeds, you mentioned residential fee and then a sliding scale for commercial properties. Sure. What's the residential? Is it a flat fee for residents?
Correct. It's $6 a month.
$6
Right.
A month.
A month, yep.
Okay. And then the commercial, just in terms of proportion of revenue between the two, is the commercial provide the majority of that, or do the citizens residential provide, or is it?
Yeah, I'd see.
It doesn't matter. Just
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm
commercials,
not sure,
the
yeah.
larger. Okay.
I think the commercial is square footage of the roof and impervious surface, and then there was 2 or 3 factors to the formula.
Correct. Yeah, I just don't happen to have those numbers.
No, that's okay.
And-
I just was curious, just thinking about the funding of these things and the long-term funding and what citizens are already paying, and is there a possibility for increasing those things? Obviously, those aren't this group's decision or recommendation by any means, but just trying to think about those things from a revenue standpoint.
Sure.
Are you also limited a little by just what your staff, how many projects you can manage?
Correct. That is part of also, I think we've kind of caught up out west on the streets. We've kind of caught up with the development, so that's why we've started hitting more of the, you know, these reconstruction, storm sewer. But that is also true, is these are a lot more labor intensive for us than the stuff out west. Because again, you're basically taking all the existing houses and having them walk home versus we can usually get detours when we do other streets out west.
I've talked about, and I'm in complete agreement with the city manager and with John, our chief engineer, about all these associated problems with this thing.
As a participant in a study that was done a year or two ago on, I don't remember what the name of the study was, the bike. Bottom line is I came to City Hall and attended a meeting and we talked about biking. One of the things that I think as we move forward with bike lanes and as the city wants to make that type of mobility priority, education for the public, both the drivers and the cyclists on where and when and how everything should be used or taken advantage of. As someone who has biked, I get frustrated at automobiles, and as someone who drives, I get frustrated with cyclists. And I think that any sort of community education program that could be done and using the various city platforms as these bike lanes are introduced in Urbandale in this manner, especially in the areas that it's going, to really educate the public on, regardless of how you use it, the right way to use it. And I just think that that's something we really ought to look into. And again, that might be part of the memo. It's certainly not something that we're going to be printing pamphlets or anything from this committee, but I do think it's something I would encourage the city to really evaluate how people use and safely use and participate in that.
Okay, so the city council, we've had a couple different, both emails as well as speakers come to the council talking about this project in particular. And just the disruptive nature it would be to go to the projected design of bike lanes on both sides, both to churches, schools, things along it. So I don't know if there's a good solution at this point in time to make the parties that have come forward happy about any of it by any means. It's a narrow street. It's 42 feet curb to curb. And so how do you fit everything that we want into 42 feet curb to curb? To me, it's the most expensive bike lanes that exist. If we're going to take 16 feet of a street and turn them into bike lanes, that's a lot of bike lanes, but I don't know what the right solution is on it, so.
I guess I'm not going to vote against this page tonight, but given the other hat that I wear as sitting on the city council, we've gotten more pushback on this particular project than we have on most projects that we do. And I've voted for all of our other complete street projects, but I don't feel like we've done one yet that is this retrofitting of an existing neighborhood. And I don't even want to look at Pat because she's going to make me feel bad. But I don't know yet if I'm ready to go there for this project. And I think that the council needs to have a bigger discussion when we are reviewing this page, if we are ready to make that really, really expensive bike lanes. I'm concerned that we haven't done enough outreach, but that can also, your point of education, if we do decide to do it, we definitely need to do an education program where we teach people how to exist in this new environment that we've created. So I have a lot of decisions to make over the next month or so on this project, but I will be supporting it tonight because I think it's a decision that the council needs to make.
Well, I don't know if there's any other exact duplicates of this configuration, but University switched to the middle turning lane, Douglas switched to the middle turning lane. Some other streets in the area have done it. And from my perspective, if you take just the biking piece out of it for a second, it seems like it's a much more safe environment to drive on those streets now as before. And so there's so many kids and residential use of Aurora Park or the Aurora Avenue. It seems like that piece of it would be a safer street, a safer environment for everybody. And there'll be an adjustment certainly, but the bike lanes, I think they will also add some additional accessibility for it and everything. So to me, it seems like long-term, like I say, it's nothing that's, nobody else ever has tried anywhere. It's been implemented in a lot of different cities, a lot of different places, and I think it will make for a much easier, safer street to drive on and to navigate both on the sidewalk and on the bike lanes once it's all done.
And I'd say the areas where it is basically three lanes.
Yeah.
Lane each way and a turn lane. Those areas I'm not as worried about. It's the areas where we get down to a single lane of traffic both ways for vehicles, as well as protected bike lane pieces.
Yeah.
So now we've got more than almost 30% of the street being for bikes
Right.
on a road that handles 5,000 cars a day.
Yeah.
And that's so it's the converging back and forth, and with winter storms coming, I don't think during a single winter storm, the lanes themselves will get used as needed. I got a 16-year-old driver, he'll just go straight.
Yeah.
He won't merge over and merge back accordingly. So those are the design is what I've got angst with, not the project. And I just don't know how we get a better design that handles some of the safety issues that happen on a street like that with the volume of cars we have. You're right, there's other places that are due lane each way with the turn lane. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like the areas where we narrow down away from that, so. But other comments on this project?
I'm just trying to look up what's in the Complete Streets plan on this, but I'm going to vote for this now anyway, if we're supposed to vote for it specifically. Because,
We only need to vote for it if there's a change.
yeah, right, because this is pretty well tested stuff. But I think it behooves us to probably go back to Complete Streets Master Plan and see specifically what was.
Do you think that committee should meet again?
Hey, I brought that up earlier, and I believe that was shut down, so we'll.
Just a point of clarification, this is a little different than the Complete Streets Master Plan. As you recall, we had a special lunch and learn with the council, discussed through what was really in the plan, and came back with a change of what we're doing now. Because again, what we were talking about was a multi-million-dollar project to either narrow up Aurora, remove the curb and gutter, add a trail onto the side, and we'd have to move all the power poles and everything. Like I said, it was millions of dollars to do that. So staff got the redirection to look at a simpler, lower cost, keep the curbs where they are at. So that, again, that's what we've presented now.
Okay. Well, then I guess there's no point.
Other comments on that page? Since there's no change, no motion needed. Page 62, we had a blank dollar amount.
So we are working on the final policy related to downtown, related to the ARPA allocated funds. That's coming on this December 27th council meeting. So we wanted to make sure that was going through. And we were just going to do the narrative, though, not a number up top, because we don't know how that's going to be spent. So was I interpreting that right, that we didn't need the number at the top? It was just the wording to identify that we had the original ARPA strategy to spend money downtown. We had some for land purchases, some for renovations, all of those things of just identifying what those were with the dollar amounts down below the number. And we didn't print with the new wording in it, but the number up top, we didn't want to put a number up there because it's not identified per se. Is that okay?
You told us we needed a number before, so I was just following your rules.
At the top, there's never been a number at the top of this because it's more of an incentive revite, I don't know, what's the best word to call it? We're calling it the downtown site assistance, site prep assistance. It's similar to our site prep plan that we have today, but it includes different things. So we're working through that. That's coming through council on the 27th, like I said, so that we make sure we're okay with how we're gonna approach that. But there won't be a per year allocation because the projects will come up as they come up. We don't have a plan like, we're gonna go buy this or we're gonna dedicate it. There's not a cap on it. It's not like the stormwater grants. It's kind of, it will flow as it comes. So there won't be a number up top, but I do apologize, the bottom part should have been updated with at least to allocate the dollars that council directed to be spent down there. And we don't have anything further from comp plan yet, so I don't really have anything specific as far as a project, just those ARPA funds.
Nikki, can I just add? You said the comp plan, and I think that's key, is coming out of the comp plan and the area studies for downtown, then in future years, there could be specifically identified things added to the plan.
So we're looking at the notes section would include what the city council has already kind of dedicated to the area, but not.
Yes, so the project status is what will be updated to reflect those strategic the amounts that you broke down that we wanted to spend down in that area. But because we don't have a specific project, and to Curtis's point, it'll go past the ARPA funds will probably have their own pages for various, if we're gonna redo the intersection at 70th, that's gonna be a project page by itself. So it wouldn't just be lumped into this redevelopment. I took it more as this was the ARPA funding that we wanted to talk about, but it'll be driven a lot by what the comp plan says as well. And the fire station study and all of the things of figuring out, there's a lot of balls in the air in that area to figure out how best to marry it together. But description only down in the project status is where it will be coming through. And we can email that out to you. I apologize, I forgot to have that
before it
updated
goes-
for today too.
Before it gets final for the council, I guess, that
Yeah.
description area gets updated. Okay.
Yeah, since it didn't affect any numbers, it's just narrative.
All right. Committee good with that? Any other items on streets?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
John.
Okay. I want to offer up a motion here urging Urbandale and Clive city councils to examine in considerable detail the adequacy of whatever planning has been done for the detour routes and traffic control when Hickman Road is closed due to construction of the I-35 80th interchange.
So Hickman Road interchange is where I would tag that in the notes, page 65. When we say effects on operating budget, that detour routes are thoroughly vetted? Would that be a right way to put it?
That's right. Vetted meaning traffic counts, peak traffic counts, delay times, possibilities of having to set up some temporary one-way streets so all traffic moves in one direction, temporary signalization,